Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we have new polls that were released yesterday. We have the debate tonight. We had to preview the debate last night, and we'll be live streaming once the debate ends. We cannot stream it because CNN will strike it down, but that's beside the point. Donald Trump is surging at a very, very good time for him. We'll see how the debate pans out, and we'll go from there once it's over. But this video is not about that. This video is about the polls that were released yesterday from some of the most liberal pollsters in the country. Quinnipiac, this is the same pollster that had Donald Trump losing Florida by like 10 points in 2020 before Donald Trump won the state by, close to 4. And this is the same pollster that was Trump's worst pollster, going all the way back to January and last year. They were the pollster that was showing Donald Trump in a lot of trouble. Liberals were clinging to Quinnipiac, and now they are trashing Quinnipiac. Now, every single pollster that they used to love and say, oh, this is the right pollster, Marist, Quinnipiac, you name it. Basically, the left-wing equivalents of something like Rasmussen. Well, you see what's happening here. Now they're just saying, oh no, Quinnipiac, we've always despised Quinnipiac, they say. Whatever. Donald Trump gained a net 5 points since the conviction. It is backfiring. And you look into the poll, and now it asks, would you still support Trump if he gets a jail sentence? And every Trump supporter almost in the poll is saying yes. So once again, the goalposts are moving, and they're still diminishing. We were told a conviction would be the end of Trump. Trump could not survive the convicted felon label. Well, here's the deal. Ever since the Hunter Biden conviction, they've kind of eased off on that for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they realize that they can't win the argument, so they're not going to try to use that card in that exact sense. But it's not just Quinnipiac that's showing this. We have many other polls like the New York Times. The New York Times, they were, having Trump up. They were a little bit more bullish on Trump earlier in the year. And then before the conviction, it was down to a Trump +1, which is still good. I mean, if he wins the popular vote, or even if he loses the popular vote by 1 to 2, he probably is still going to win the election in the Electoral College. But you look at what's going on in the New York Times, one of the more accurate pollsters across the board in 2022. Quinnipiac was actually overestimating Democrats in 2022. But you look at this, and Donald Trump, among likely voters, he's up by 4 percentage points. Among registered voters, his lead goes up to 6. And so does his lead in Quinnipiac, by the way, in terms of the full field. They actually have Donald Trump in the full field. He only is up by 3 in the likely voter sample, but in the full field with the registered voter sample, he's up by 9 points. Joe Biden's job approval rating, -21. That is not where you want to be as a president when you got an election in 4 months. That's why tonight for Biden is make or break. Donald Trump, he just needs to go out there and I guess you would say hit Biden on the record. We talked about that last night, and we'll see how it plays out. We know the media is going to try to trap Trump. They're going to try to make this like a win for Biden. And some people will say that these polls are being released strategically. So in the next poll, they could say, oh, look, it goes back to the previous result, but Biden gained 3 points after the debate, which again, it's a gaslighting tactic. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, who knows? But they're even weighing for response bias, because they will say, and a lot of people are saying, well, Republicans were more likely to answer the phone. And that's true, but they weigh for that. They take that into consideration. But still, it's not exactly making the difference when they weigh it. And you're seeing it across the board. Usually you have a Democrat response bias in the summer. You can go back to 2022, 2018, 16, 14, 12, 10, 08. I haven't looked at previous years before that. But what you typically see in the summer is you see a surge, at least mid-June, across the board. Whether you can explain it, because you could say, well, 2022, it was the Dobbs decision, which technically the surge was happening a little bit before. Some people will say it's because it got leaked, whatever. The bottom line is you have an inexplicable gain in many cases for Democrats in the beginning of the summer, going all the way back. It's uniform, usually in June. Sometimes if the RNC is in July, like 2016, you got a bump, and then it was washed away with the DNC. This time around, you're not seeing it. And you're actually seeing the opposite, which is very, very intriguing. Don't know exactly what it means. But again, in those election cycles, you didn't see the same bumps typically happen at the state level. And now you're still seeing Trump at the state level. He's gaining, and he's gaining nationally as well. So all across the board, very good for Trump. But Gallup released a poll, favorable ratings, and this is huge. Joe Biden has a -24 favorable rating. Donald Trump is only -6. Now, keep in mind, when Biden took office, and obviously some of this is the honeymoon period, whatever, he had a +20. And in 2020, he had a +1. Donald Trump, before the 2020 election, he had a -9. And after 1/6, he was -27. But now that's back to -6. That's like nearing his record favorable rating, which again, you're still polarizing. You're still a little underwater, but Biden's underwater by so much more. You don't even need to like win the double haters like Trump usually does in order to go out there and win the election when Biden has those numbers. But this is more important among independent voters. Donald Trump is, his favorable rating with indies, he's down by 14. Okay, not great, but not the worst. But Biden's down 31 points, 31. I mean, this was not the case in 2020. You have a different landscape. That's why Biden needs a change of scenery. It's why he called for the early debate, which again, you have the debate, but also what do you have after the debate? You have the RNC. You're going to probably, if anything, see an RNC bump. And Biden might get a bump from the DNC as well. But what is he even going to talk about? What accomplishments is he going to tout? It's just going to be an anti-Trump festival that's going to be going on for a few days, if it even takes place non-virtually, because they're afraid of the Palestine protests. But this is not just national polling, but the national polling looks good for Trump. He leads the RCP aggregate by 1.5% going into the debate. He has not led by that margin going all the way back to early May. And I think that he peaked at 1.5. In order for him to do better than this, you'd have to go all the way back to March. So you're seeing a big shift in the political environment. You talk about pre-conviction. It was 0.9. And again, Trump didn't really go down in a lot of polls. It was mainly like a response, I wouldn't say a response bias sort of thing, but it was more of a, polls come into the aggregate, then they leave the aggregate sort of thing. And now you're seeing what's going on. And we don't even have a poll in the aggregate from Harvard-Harris, which has been very pro-Trump this cycle. Same thing with CNN, believe it or not. And we don't even have a poll from, Forbes or Harris X. All three of those pollsters typically give Trump decent, sizable margins. You do have Rasmussen in there, which is true, but Quinnipiac, that's usually the left-wing Rasmussen, and now that's Trump +4. The previous Rasmussen poll was Trump +5. So it's looking good for him nationally, especially when you compare it to 2020. He's polling 11 points better than he was on 6/27/2020. And Hillary Clinton in the popular vote, she was up by nearly 7 points at the same exact day in history. So Trump is right now doing really, really well. And it's good. Can't take the foot off the gas. It still comes down to turnout. We don't elect presidents by national vote, but the swing states as well. You are seeing a shift, and Nate Silver, of all people, we're going to retire the Nate Plastic name this cycle for now. He left 538. The 538 model is showing 50-50 for no reason. But again, like I said, it's mainly to appease the audience that they have. Because if the roles were reversed, if Biden was up nationally, you'd basically have to have him up nationally by 5 to 6 to kind of gauge the same level of, the popular vote, whatever, and he's up in every swing state. They would be giving Biden like an 80% shot to win, which is even at that point lofty for Trump, one could say, but this is more about right 2-1. I think if the election was tomorrow, it would be like 9-1, Trump being favored. There could still be a polling error. We got to be on guard. But it's like the swing states, even the popular vote is 50-50 in the Nate Silver model, which is huge. But you look at the swing states, and Trump is gaining in a lot of them. He's doing very well across the board. Wisconsin, it's a little iffy. He had a poll that came out yesterday. where they push all the undecideds, and it was like a tie in the RV, registered voters, and then the likely voters screen, it was like Biden +2, but then Trump led in the 5-way race. But Wisconsin's a really hard state to poll. When you look at the other states, though, he's up big in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina. Those are not even really competitive right now. I mean, that Trump plus 5.6 in Arizona, that's ridiculous. But the number one takeaway is Pennsylvania, because this is the most important state of the election. It really is. When you look at this Trump, he's at 48% too, and he's winning in the Marist poll as well, which is calculated into the 5-way race. But the fact that you're at 48% in Pennsylvania, you get 48.5, 48.8, like that's going to be what it takes to just win the state, given, RFK Jr., all these third-party candidates in the running, in the mix. And if we look at the electoral map, you give Donald Trump Pennsylvania, I can't see him losing, because he wins with Michigan, or at least he wins in the House with Michigan. If you give him Georgia, he wins. If you give him Arizona and Nevada, both he wins. But it's looking like Trump is probably going to win. It seems like this right now, you apply like a margin of error, polling error. Like right now, this is where it really sits at. You see states like Virginia and Minnesota and Nebraska's 2nd district, they're polling closer than Pennsylvania. And polls typically underestimate Trump in Wisconsin and Michigan by a few points. You don't even have a Trafalgar in the aggregate. We don't even have any like right-leaning polls in the aggregate en masse, I would say. You do have Fabrizio in the mix. I mean, they underestimated Fetterman by only 2 or 3 points in their final poll, though. And even if you apply that error, it's still a Trump win. So you see a lot of more liberal polls or just unbiased or polls that are nonpartisan in the mix. And Trump is doing well. It's a Trump-specific phenomenon. It is. That's what's happening. And a lot of people that say, well, the midterms, this, that, and the other thing, different circumstances, different lay of the land politically. You're talking about no Trump on the ballot. You're talking about individual candidates from both sides, and the issues of the time being different, especially with abortion in the state level in some of these Rust Belt states. You have popular incumbent governors on the Democrat side. That's kind of what was at play. Now it's a different set of circumstances. Now you get the full Trump electorate, and Trump is the favorite. And I'm not a big fan of betting odds, but they finally are showing Trump leading the betting odds in Pennsylvania. I don't know what took them so long to show that, but Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, Donald Trump is in the lead right now. Michigan, he's barely trailing. They give him some shot in Virginia. They give him some shot in Minnesota, 25% chance. That might be fair right now, but again, things can very, very well change. You look at a state like Nevada, though, he's at 72, Arizona, 68. He is at 75 in Georgia, 82 in North Carolina. This is a different ball game right now. Donald Trump on the revenge tour. We'll see what happens tonight. We'll see what happens in the next 4 months, in about a week or so. But man, Quinnipiac showing a Trump +4. I mean, let's be real here. Everything they've thrown at this guy up to this point is backfiring. They need something quick, or they're going to be in a lot of trouble, because when we talk about this election, technically it's 100% accurate that we have a little bit of ways to go. We're not to the conventions yet, and of course the Democrats will push their goalposts to, people don't pay attention until Labor Day, but we live in a different sphere of the election. We have our first debate tonight, and early voting is going to be starting very shortly as well. Early voting, or at least when the absentees go out, it's going to be in not even 70 some days. Early voting itself starts in 84 days. So Biden needs something quick, and I'm not entirely sure he's going to get it, but tonight's important because a lot of people will be watching, so we'll see. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.